My name's Robert Gale. I'm one of the two current core cricket directors of Belgium Paradise. I guess we had changed quite a lot in that time when for the first production that I was a performer in was called The Irish Giant, and that was directed by Gary Robson, who's now my core cricket director. So that's quite a long time that we've been working together. When Gary directed that show, it's the first time the cable director had directed any work for Belgium Paradise, and that was 2003. So that was already 10 years after it had been created. So that shows you that for that first period of time, the idea of having a cable director just wasn't on the cards, it just was never going to happen. And then the idea of having a cable artistic director reaching the company was very far off, and that only came into place in 2012 when Gary and I took over that role. I think there's something for me about, yes, it's great thing to cable people on stage and writing plays and all the rest of it, but actually now that Belgium Paradise has to cable people at every level in the organisation, I think that's made a massive impact. Even at board level, when I have a number of disabled people, and that I think is important that it's the whole way through. It can look like other people to look at this societal changes because on one hand we're just making work that we make as artists, and we're aware of what's going on out there, but there comes a point where you can't be too aware of it or you become paranoid about it. But I think one of the big steps forward was the Unlimited programme in 2012, and that took disabled arts in the UK up to a whole different level, up to a whole different platform of high quality work that had a massive appeal to a wide audience. So I think for us at Belgium Paradise, that's what we now focus a lot of our work. I think people still expect us to be making work that's a bit worthy or a bit, or isn't that good for them and all that sort of stuff. So we're always trying to work against that expectation. But in a way, all theatre companies are making work of high quality, you would hope. Before I became a cricket director, well, certainly BOP was a way that I made a lot of contacts in the industry in Scotland. And when I was the agent for Kings, a big part of that role was going out and meeting other directors and writers. And so I got to be well known within the Scottish theatre industry. Working in Scotland where there are a number of disabled artists like, myself, Claire Cunningham, Caroline Bourget, Rebecca Firepan, there's a number of people making work in Scotland. So to be part of that ecology was very important at that time. Equally, Belgium Paradise was part of that ecology. I wasn't on my own, that was very important. We need to be able to employ young disabled, we need to be able to employ disabled actors to put on stage. If they're not there, we have to help develop them. So it all becomes part of a very logical ecosystem, if you like, that I think we can be a key part of, if not the only part. I remember once I was in a venue on the Isle of Youth, and the production manager at the time and I had gone up, and soon I got my wheelchair at the car, and the person who ran the venue said, "Oh, have you only got the one with you?" Meaning me. But that was sort of the attitude of, and she got nothing wrong with that. And then you think that's why what we do is so important, to go up there and to develop those ideas and get people seeing things a bit differently. I think for a long time, people think that, you know, once the wider industry became accessible and did what we do, then there'll be no need for BOP. And I don't buy that at all, actually. I think what we do is we put schooling for disabled people on skates. No one else is doing that, or they're not doing it in the way that we are. So it's about the narrative, it's about the stories, it's about what we put on skates. We'll keep doing that for another 25 years, and those stories will become more innovative, interesting, whatever else. And the same way that any theatre company is pushing new stories on stage. So that's where I think BOP, our role, what we give to the art sector is going to be constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly developing in that way.